Thank you for coming to First Baptist Church of Interlaken on this Resurrection Sunday. I just want to say to everybody, I am just so happy. I'm happy every day. But I'm so happy this day to know him, aren't you? I got up this morning and I went outside. I stood in my field in my pajamas. My neighbors may have thought I was crazy, but they already know that. And I just waited for the sun to come up over Cuba Lake with my camera out there, and I had to see that come up over. And I'm just so happy to know him. I want to thank you for your prayers. I'm doing great. I feel really good. And I'm back. And I just want to keep each and every one here in the prayer needs. You have them in your bulletin. This week's going to be very difficult. Okay, I'm going to go into prayer now here in a few minutes, and just pray for each and every one here. But pray every day for Kim Ray and Wanda Wade. Thank you today for all the Wades coming out, and we love you so much. I'll share this with you. I've known Dwayne for many, many, many years. And the Rosses had a pleasure a few weeks ago of going to their house and having dinner. And I hope he wasn't going to throw me out or anything, but, I couldn't leave. We just had such a good time. And I want to just thank you so much, Dwayne and Wanda, that it was just, it's just one of the best evenings I've had in years, and thank you so much. Lord and Father, on this Resurrection Sunday, you could have called 1,000 angels, you could have called 1,000,000 angels and say, come and get me, but you didn't. You stayed there on that cross, and you died for the Son of God that had no sin whatsoever. And you took all of our sin and bared it all. For me, you, everybody in this town of Interlaken. And yes, even the unsaved too. You took it all and bared it all. But you didn't stay there very long. You was put in a tomb with a big, huge stone. And up from the grave you arose. You kicked that stone away like it was nothing. And now you sit and wait for us on the right hand of your Father. And we are in a society today that you have put no pressure on any one of us to come to you. It is all by our decision. But it's also us as believers in a body of believers here today that I'm going to say this. That we are to go out and we are to tell each and every one that you still can have that hope that's only found in Christ Jesus our Lord. You don't have to suffer the second death. We thank you so much for that, Lord. And Lord, we look this week on this Resurrection Sunday. We as a church pray for a miracle. We pray for Mrs. Kim Ray Alzheimer, that she will go through this treatment and that she will get strong and stronger every day. For in Christ, all things are possible. All things, not some, all. We thank you so much for her. We thank you so much for John and their family, and be with them this week. We think of Wanda. May she get strong. May her bone in her foot heal. We were saddened to hear that she broke her ankle. And just be with them. We thank you for all the Wades here today. And Lord and Father, we also pray for a dear one of ours, Peggy Flood. She is in so much pain. And there might be a question whether she's going to walk again. And Lord, we love her dearly, Lord. Just be with her, Lord. May you ease her pain, Lord. We thank you so much for her. And Lord, as we close now, and as we give this service over to Elder Jeremy Porter, may God's word, as we leave this place today, this house of worship, as we eat our Easter ham or whatever we're doing this afternoon, may your word stay in our heart, Lord. May we take what we hear today. May we share it with somebody. May we share it this week with one that's lost and tell them, he died for you too. We ask all this in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Good morning, everybody. Just want to say that, it seems like the most important Sundays is when the devil wants to screw everything up for you, right? I just want to say, no one can ruin the song Redeemed for me. That's my favorite song. And whether the words are up there in the right time or not, no one can ruin Redeemed for me. So, fortunately, the Holy Spirit's with us too today. So, don't get down about the things that go wrong today, because Satan wants you to not enjoy today, and today's our day. We get to enjoy, because he's risen. He's risen. Yeah, that's right. He's risen. Amen. All right. Let's open with a word of prayer. We're going to need it. Heavenly Father, I thank you for everything that you do for us every day, but God, as we should look back on your sacrifice every day, God, I pray that if we don't, that today would be the day that changes that. That we would remember every day that we only have hope because of you. We only have hope because of what you did. Without you, our sin is sticking us in hell. But with you, God, we have eternity to look forward to. And God, I thank you for that hope. I thank you for everyone here who has that hope. God, if there are people here who don't believe that, maybe today's the day for them. God, if their hurt or their sin or their suffering is holding them back, maybe today's the day. Reach into the lives here, God, of every person. Change us, God, but more than anything, we want to know you. We want to know Jesus. We just thank you and praise you for all this. In your name, amen. Okay, I'm going to open by telling you a brief... I'm going to open by telling you about a buddy of mine, okay? My buddy's name is Larry, all right? And Larry was born December 7th, 1956, in a very, very small town in Indiana. He had a difficult childhood, Larry did. His parents divorced early, and that had a significant impact on him. Didn't turn out to be the greatest father, somewhat, because of that. But he was a hard worker. And in his teens, he even became a garbage man just to make money for the family. He grew up liking sports, and basketball became his passion. Now, while he was tall, he was not necessarily a gifted athlete. When you saw him run, he didn't look like how you're supposed to look when you're a basketball player, when you run. But he was a hard worker, and in high school, Larry would begin each morning by shooting 500 jump shots. And he had to make 99 free throws in a row, otherwise he would start back at 0. So he was a hard worker. And that hard work paid off. He got to go to Indiana State, and he played basketball for Indiana State and got them in his senior year to the championship game. He went on to be drafted by the Boston Celtics, and over 13 seasons, they won 3 championships with him. He was a 6'9" forward, and he was known for his unflappable confidence and clutch shooting ability, which together created an intimidating presence on the court. Sorry, this part always makes me want to be the announcer, guys, so here it goes. Larry Bird was a 12-time All-Star. He won 3 consecutive MVPs. He averaged 4.3 points, 10 rebounds, and 6.3 assists per game. Bird was a member of the NBA Dream Team that won the gold medal in 1992. And he was elected to the Hall of Fame in 1998. My favorite story about Larry Bird is when he went on to win his 3rd consecutive three-point challenge. And he walked into the locker room with all those great shooters, and he said, "Who's coming in second today?" And then he went out, and he won it, and didn't bother taking off his jacket. Anybody ever try to shoot a basketball with your jacket on? And he won it with his jacket. Okay, so maybe some of you know who Larry Bird is too. I can tell you a bunch of facts about Larry Bird. He's my favorite player. I can even do so passionately. I'll bring out my announcer voice, which I wanted to be when I grew up. But do I know Larry Bird? I don't know Larry Bird. Of course I don't. Do you know all the celebrities in your life that you know facts about? Do you know them? No. So unfortunately, we treat Jesus a little bit like a celebrity, even as Christians. I can tell you a bunch of facts about Jesus too, and have none of that actually do anything with my heart, right? They say even the demons believe, right? You can believe all sorts of things about Jesus and have nothing change. And so this service, my purpose is that I want you to know Jesus. You have to know about Jesus first, right? You do need to know about him. You do need to know what he did. But I want you to know Jesus as if he was real, as if he really was a person, as if he really exists today, as if he rose from the grave, which he did. Amen? Amen. Can you talk to him right now? Of course you can. We have no excuses, right? So my main purpose today is to show you, and we're going to go through 2 passages in the book of John. I want to show you what he acted like, not just what he did. Because who Jesus is tells you about the heart of God, right? If all I know is facts about Jesus, but not how he interacted with people just like you and me, because everybody he interacted with was just like you and me. None of them were perfect. None of them were excellent. In fact, some of them were worse sinners than you, maybe. You're at least as bad as they are, and they might have been a little worse. And that's who Jesus was interacting with. And what I want you to do today is believe that that's still who he is. He didn't change. This is how he talks. This is how he acts. This is what he does. So when you pray to him, it's not, "Oh man, I got to pray again. Oh man, I got to take time to talk to Jesus. Okay, I wrote my list out for today. Jesus, get ready. Here's my list. Dot, 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 dot. Okay, thank goodness. I prayed for the day. Now I can say I did." Is that a relationship with Jesus Christ? That's not. No. So today, I want to show you who he really is, because he's way better than that. That's the thing. I'm not telling you all stink. You already know you all stink. Welcome to the neighborhood. But Jesus is offering you something way better than just a self-help book than just a person you can throw your needs at. He's way better. He's offering way more than that. And I just don't want you to limit it, right? Do not limit your relationship with Jesus Christ. Okay, I better get into it. Otherwise, we're going to be here forever. All right. The reason I don't know Larry Bird is because I have never had a conversation with Larry Bird, right? You can't get to know someone without speaking with them, without giving some of your heart and being vulnerable and seeing some of theirs. And as I prepared for this sermon, I think at this point I've prayed it 150 times. I said, Jesus, please show me who you are so I can tell my church family on Easter, right? Make it so real for me that no one here can miss it today. I don't want you to miss it today, right? I want this to change someone's passions today. At least one of you, your passions are in the wrong place. You think too much about the wrong things and not enough about Jesus, and I want that to change for you today. Not because I told you so, but because God's word says so. All right? God's word says so, and Jesus is offering you a better life than the misery that you maybe are experiencing right now. All right? If I just wanted to prove to you what Jesus did, I would take you through the Old Testament, and there's all the prophecies about his birth, about his life, about his death, and about his resurrection. And if you put all those prophecies together, the likelihood that one person could fulfill all those prophecies is astronomical. It's astronomical, and yet he did. So if you want to go through and do that for yourself, that's also a good exercise. But today is about who is Jesus. I'm not going to try to prove to you that he really was the Son of God. If you don't believe that, come talk to me after. I'll tell you all about him. All right? That's not what we're going to do today. I'm not trying to get you intellectually today. I'm trying to get your hearts today. So before we go any further, because it is so easy to just know about Jesus, it comes naturally to all of us to just know about him and not really know him, I'm going to give you guys and myself 30 seconds of just silence so you can pray for yourself. All right? And you can at least pray my prayer. Please, Jesus, show me who you are. But pray whatever you'd like. I'm going to give you 30 seconds now. Let's get our hearts open to know Jesus, okay? Let's pray. Heavenly Father, help us to know you today. Jesus, we want to know you. We want to know you. This whole group, I hope, wants to know you, God. And I want to know you. Show us who you are today. Show us who you are every day. God, I pray that the people here now would chase you for the rest of their lives. In your name, amen. First thing that Jesus would definitely want us to know is that he is the Messiah. We find that out all through the Old and New Testament, but Jesus is the Messiah, the chosen one, the Son of God, the only one who has done anything about the fact that your soul was destined for one place and now it can be destined for another. I can't save you. No one in this room can save you. There was only one who lived a spotless life. Jesus was called a spotless lamb. He had no blemish. He lived perfectly. And you say, well, that must have been easy because he was God. Well, he was doing it in the same type of body that you've got, with the same type of horrible people around him that you've got, same people trying to hurt him. In fact, I'd argue they tried to hurt him way more than you've been hurt, right? And he still reacted perfectly somehow. He held out all the way to the cross because he had to live a perfect life. That's very important that we know that. You can turn to John 4 while I set you up for it here. Through Jesus, we have access to the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit now that can indwell you permanently, that you can now live forever. I'm going to be in two really familiar passages, so I'm going to need you to open new eyes, okay? Don't roll your eyes when you see the passages, please, just because you think you know what they're about. Pay close attention to Jesus. I often wonder what's the best way to bring someone to Christ, right? And if you talk to Wayne, he's been trained on it, right? If there's people here who have gone through training, how do I bring people to Christ? It's important to know. Let's watch the master at work. Let's see how Jesus spreads the gospel. Let's see how Jesus deals with the sinner. All right. This is earlier in his ministry, but the Pharisees have heard about Jesus. They want to get him. They want to try to separate him from the people. So he is out in the countryside and decides, look, I'm going back to Galilee. Okay? So we're going to pick up in verse 7. There's two ways from Judea to Galilee. One is you go around the Samaritans because the Jews hate the Samaritans. They were a lesser people, so the Jews always walked around. Instead of going straight to where they needed to get, they walked around. They hated these people so much. Did Jesus walk around them? Nope. Walked straight through. He must needs go through Samaria is a really important verse. It's not just because he had to go someplace. It's because he went to the place where nobody else would go. Right? So Jesus is going straight north. We're going to pick up in verse 7. It's the middle of the day. He's been walking all day. He sits next to Jacob's well. And here we go. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone in town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? For Jews do not associate with the Samaritans." Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gifts of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said, "you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did his sons and his livestock?" Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me that water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water." He told her, "Go, call your husband and come back." "I have no husband," she replied. Jesus said to her, "You're right. You have no husband. The fact is you have had 5 husbands, and the man you know that you now have is not your husband. What you have said is quite true." "Sir," the woman said, "I can see you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on the mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem." "Woman," Jesus replied, "believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming and has now come when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for they are the kind of worshipers that the Father seeks. God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in spirit and in truth." The woman said, "I know that Messiah, called Christ, is coming. And when he comes, he will explain everything to us." Then Jesus declared, "I, the one speaking to you, I am he. I, the one speaking to you, I am he." Skip down to verse 28. Then leaving her jar, the woman went back to the town and said to the people, "Come, see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah?" And they came out of the town and made their way toward them. And not because they're not important, but just for the story's sake, we're going to skip down to verse 39 right now. It says, "Many of the Samaritans from that town believed in him because of the woman's testimony. He told me everything I ever did." So when the Samaritans came to him, they urged him to stay with them, and he stayed 2 days. And because of his words, many more became believers. And they said to the woman, "We no longer believe just because of what you said. Now we have heard for ourselves, and we know that this man really is the Savior of the world." Awesome, isn't it? So when Jesus decides who should be saved, he walks through Samaria. And when Jesus decides that that's a good idea, it's because a bunch of people are going to be saved. There was crowds waiting for him on the other side. But he had an appointment. He had an appointment with a sinner at a well. And that sinner was going to bring others to Christ. That's amazing. This is you could do 7 weeks on this, but we're just focused in, okay? Jesus has an appointment with this sinner. He wins her, and the way that he does it is truly, it's astonishing the way he does it. First, he tells her that he can give her a life source that is never exhausted. He can give her this life source that's never exhausted, this water that you're never thirsty anymore, right? So he starts by offering. It never needs to be replenished, this living water. It's a spring that creates eternal life, a life source that would sustain her perfectly forever. This is a spiritual type of water, right? This is not he doesn't have a Keurig that just keeps refilling itself, right? This is he's talking spiritually. Look, I have something pretty awesome to offer you, and it will sustain you to eternal life. To eternal life. What an amazing hope he offers. And she responds to this hope out of great need. Great need. What time did I say this was? Does anybody know when he's at the well? What time does the Bible say? Middle of the day. When you're in Samaria, how nice and cool is it in the middle of the day? It is not. It is hot. And still, to this day, women in these communities, when they go to get water, they go together as a community first thing in the morning because it's insane to carry heavy water in the middle of the day. They fellowship together on the way. They learn each other's families and all that. She's not there then, is she? Why is she there in the middle of the day when no one's going to see her? She's outcast. She's outcast. We learn why. She's had 5 husbands, and she has another man. The current one is not her husband. And we don't find out all the details of that. But in that culture, depending on the situation, you could be shunned, and maybe it kind of seems like she already has been, if you're going to get water in the middle of the day. Or you can be stoned, honestly. It's not like our culture, where people with 12 divorces are celebrities. That's not how this thing worked. It's one of 2 things, probably, because we don't get all the details. In that culture, if you married someone and that man died, the brother needed to marry you. And then the next brother, if that man died, and so on. So potentially, every man she married throughout a whole family died. And now she's with the last one, number 6, and he's like, I'm not marrying you. Right? That's best case scenario probably for this lady. Worst case is she has lived a horrible, promiscuous life with many men. And now everyone in that village, in that area, has outcast her because of her sin, because of this very open, in everyone's face kind of sin. The gossip about her must have been terrible, right? People treated her poorly. People probably didn't speak to her. People might have spit on the ground that she walked on. This lady's used to it. So when he says, Jesus offers permanency so you don't have to keep coming back to this well, she says, that sounds real good to me. I want some of that. Jesus, give me some of that. Jesus' response to her is extraordinary. And if you just read through this passage and you miss this, it's kind of important. Jesus doesn't just say, like I might have, when I'm witnessing to somebody, oh, I'm so excited. All right, you're a Christian now, and you're coming to church with me. Is that what Jesus says? No. He says, go and call your husband and come back. So he literally looks at that woman and says, what is her greatest hurt? What is her greatest sin? What is the need she has the greatest? What do I need to free her from? And he looks right into that one. He doesn't just say, okay, good to go. He deals with it. He deals with it with her. He says, no. Guys, I don't just offer you a free ticket to heaven. I offer you something better than that. I offer some healing. I offer you something else. So he pushes in and says, go and get your husband, knowing fairly, he obviously knows, right? She says, I have no husband. He says, you're right. You've had 5 husbands. She says, holy cow, this guy's a prophet. And he says to her, or she says to him, boy, you're a prophet. Don't miss this next part either. We do it all the time. She's about to feel some feelings, or he wants her to, and she says, look at what she does. She asks him a theological question. You guys say we should worship over here. We say we should worship over there. Jesus doesn't fall for the bait. Doesn't let her off the hook about the husband thing. He says, don't worry about it. As of right now, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. You're not going to worship over there or over there. You're going to worship the Father in spirit and in truth. She says, oh, he didn't fall for that one. So she gives him another one. I know that the Messiah is coming, called Christ. I bet she's thinking, this prophet wants to tell me about the Messiah, so let's see if he'll talk to me about that instead of my husband's, instead of my greatest pain, instead of, how else can I avoid this? And he, looking at her, has one sentence, don't worry about that, I'm him. We got nothing else to say on this subject. You're talking to him. I am him. I'm him. This is amazing. So, let me try to give you a visual example of this, because I'm a little bit of a visual learner sometimes. And plus, I figure, don't worry, there's a shirt on underneath. I figure if the speaker takes his outward shirt off in the middle of a service, I'll see who's still awake. So, all right? So, here is, my daughter was so excited to have her Easter clothes on. And then she saw mine, and she was like, what is this? What is this? Okay, this shirt is meant to represent me, my sin, my hurt. I got a whole bunch of them on here. I thought about them when I put them on. They're not fake. They're real. They're things from my past. They're things that hold me up. And being a good Christian, when I'm around some of you, I'm willing to be transparent about some of them, right? Because being transparent is kind of cool. It's edgy. And you say, oh man, Jeremy's really working on his life. He's willing to talk about some of his sin, right? Because that's what a good Christian does. There's a difference between being transparent and being vulnerable, right? If I'm not vulnerable with you, I don't have to do a single thing about any of this. I get to wear this horrible, ugly, polka-dotted shirt as much as I want. And I get to look down and think about him. This is what Jesus does, all right? So when he is like when I want to say, you know what? I want to talk about this one, Jesus, and I want to talk about this one, Jesus, and I want to talk about all these. Some of these are going to maybe not come off. He just says, that's nice. My sin paid, my salvation is good enough for all these. And I don't particularly want to talk about the superficial ones. I want to talk about, this is going to take me forever, isn't it? I want to talk about the one that's the most important, all right? I'll get them off. He is doing the same thing with her. She keeps trying to avoid it. She keeps trying to say, look, Jesus, I don't want to talk about this whole husband thing. There's one here. There's one here, and I'm going to leave it on. This is the one, and it's in the shape of a heart. You probably can't see it. This is the one I don't want to talk to any of you about. This is the one I don't even want to talk to Jesus about sometimes. This is the sin I carry around with me that keeps me from doing really what God would have me do. I think about it a lot. I don't always believe that God can help me overcome it. I don't want to talk to him about it, and I don't want to see what he'll do, because it might hurt. It might hurt for a few minutes when he does it. But this is the one Jesus is saying, I'll take care of that one. All the rest of these, I'm not a self-help book. I'm not 6 ways to live a better life. Let's take care of this one. And what is her response to him taking care of that biggest, most overt need? The woman with all the husbands goes into town shouting, come see this man. Think about that. What did they think initially? Another man. Come see the man. She is free. She is free from shame. The shame that made her go at noontime when it was hot so no one would see her is gone now. That's what Jesus offers. And when you are free, all of a sudden you go start witnessing to everybody. And people start coming to Christ because you are saying to them, I was awful. Look, and yet, Jesus said, I'll talk to you about that one. I'll talk to you about the hairy, ugly, horrible one. And he pushed right into that and dealt with that. What does that tell you about Jesus? If we're trying to get to know Jesus today, what does this tell you about Jesus? Please do not ignore it. Please do not leave here saying, I learned a few facts about John 4, and these are the things that happened. This is the same Jesus you pray to. Okay? So he is offering something way better. Let's see if I can catch up here. Has he liberated you? Are you free? Do you believe that his death and resurrection overcomes everything you have in your past, or are you holding on to some of them? Because it's not quite enough. It's not quite enough. Ask yourself some questions. And answer them honestly. Do you believe that Jesus is alive right now and can hear you? When you pray, do you actually believe you're praying to someone? It's not just practice. I hope so. He really is sitting right next to the Father. You just think about that. He's sitting right next to the Father when you tell him what you need, when you tell him about your greatest hurt, when you tell him about your greatest need. He's sitting right next to the Father saying, let's do this. Let's try this next. Let's do those fatherly hands things where we intervene. We let him feel the pain and then we let him go through it and we liberate him. He's sitting right next to the Father. Remember that when you're talking to Jesus. He is alive. Do you believe that he can change you or not? Stop pretending like he doesn't already know what this one looks like for you. He knew that woman had 5 husbands. He knows what it is for you. By not talking to him about it, you're kind of pretending he doesn't know. He knows. Just talk to him about it. He's not in such a clean room that you can't talk to him about it. She did. And that's not the only one. Jesus saw some horrible sin on this planet. Still lived perfectly, still went after it. Pour out your heart to him, okay? He's the... Okay. He is... He's a real...
Speak louder.
We'll get through it here. He wants to come and talk to you. Pour out your heart to him. All right, we're going to go to one more example, all right, in John 11. John 11, you need to turn there because we're going to dig in a little bit. We are nearing the end of Jesus' life at this point. He's a few weeks away, like 3 weeks before he's going to go into Jerusalem. And the Jews are escalating their plotting at this point. They are trying to pay people and trying to get intel. Where's Jesus? And there's several passages where Jesus just sort of slips away and they can't find him. They're awesome. And he kind of goes back out into the country and keeps teaching. It's not his time yet. He's going to keep teaching. And this is what he's doing at this point. And everyone who knows anything about the Bible, and if you don't, that's fine, but there's a family that Jesus loved while he was on this earth. There's plenty of them that he loved. But he definitely loved Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. These are two sisters and a brother, okay? He loved them. It talks about him staying with them. It talks about how he talked with them. They got to see him very real. They got to have conversation with the Son of God in their own home. That's just pretty awesome. And they loved him. These were people who were bought in. They were washing his feet with their hair, right? They were the ones who poured the oil on that was worth a whole year's wages because they understood who Jesus really was. When Judas is saying, hey, that costs too much money, don't dump that on Jesus. Oh, man, I don't want to be the one who said, don't dump that on Jesus. Can you imagine? So these people love Jesus. He loves them. And we're going to pick up, I'm going to start reading. So he's away from them right now, though. And here's what happens. It says, now a man named Lazarus was sick. And he was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. This Mary, whose brother Lazarus is now sick, was the same one who poured perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, Lord, the one you love is sick. That's awesome. The one you love is sick. That's pretty cool. All right. When he heard this, Jesus said, this sickness will not end in death, no, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it. We're going to pause there just a second, because this is hard. I'm not staying there very long, but this is something difficult to deal with. A sickness that will bring glory to God. We have one right here. We have proof, right, that they exist. They're not all just punishments, right? There are many in this room that are going through sickness right now or have a loved one that is. My wife's having a little bit of a relapse with her headaches. And we know how long that can last, how terrible it is. And my first prayer to Jesus wasn't, how are these headaches going to glorify you? My first prayer in my selfishness was, God, please not again. Right? So we're going to have to give Martha and Mary a break here, but that's what Jesus says. Look, he's sick. You're right. It's not going to lead to death, and this will glorify God. What happens next is a couple days pass. Jesus does not go, and in the meantime, Lazarus does die. So think about what those sisters are thinking right now. They sent that courier over to Jesus. Jesus is saying, no, don't worry about it. It's not going to lead to death. Courier comes back. They said, what did he say? Is he coming? Look, Lazarus is dying. He's really sick. Courier just said, he said it's not going to lead to death, and he went on teaching. This must have been difficult. After a few days, Jesus says, look, we are going to go. Tells his disciples we're going to go. We'll pick up on verse 17, okay? On his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. Lord, Martha said to Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now, God will give you whatever you ask. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha answered, I know he'll rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me, they will never die. Do you believe this? Yes, Lord, she replied. I believe you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who is to come into the world. After she said this, she went back and called her sister Mary. The teacher is here, she said, and is asking for you. When Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not entered the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who had been with Mary in the house, comforting her, noticed how quickly she got up and went out, they followed her, supposing she was going to the tomb to mourn there. When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. Where have you laid him? He asked. Come and see, Lord, they replied. Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, see how he loved him. But some of them said, could not he who opened the eyes of a blind man have kept this man from dying? Jesus, once more, deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. Take away the stone, he said. But Lord, said Martha, the sister of the dead man, by this time there's a bad odor, for he has been there 4 days. Then Jesus said, did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? So they took away the stone. Then Jesus looked up and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I know that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me. When he had said this, Jesus called in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. Jesus said to them, take off the grave clothes and let him go. All right, so here we have a family that Jesus loves. They send for them in their greatest need. He responds, but doesn't come. It says, in fact, this illness will glorify God. Days pass, Lazarus dies. When you die this quickly, when that kind of illness comes upon you, it's not pretty, even with current medicine. They did not have current medicine. So it probably was real ugly the way he died. And his sisters were mourning that. There was grief associated with what they had just gone through with Lazarus. When Mary hears that Jesus is close, she goes to, when Martha hears that Jesus is close, she goes to see him. And in her grief and all this ugliness, she sort of accuses him. If you had been here, this wouldn't have happened. Not much of another way to put that. if he had done what she had asked, Lazarus would still be alive. That's what she's saying to the Son of God. Jesus says, but your brother will rise again. And she did what we do. I don't want you to miss this either. I want you to see yourself in all of these people, okay? She gives religious platitude. Does anybody know what that is? I can say lots of the right words to you, and none of them have ever touched my heart, really, right? I can say things in the moment that sound very Christian. And I've been in church my whole life. I can say plenty of things that just sound Christian, and I know whether they've shifted my heart or moved the way I actually act. She sort of gives him one of those, like, yeah, I know he'll be raised again on the last day. Like it's the right thing to say in the moment. We put a lot of those things on Facebook, to be honest. It's Facebook and Twitter have become the way to see what the Christian's heart really looks like, you know? Now, God bless you if you post one and it meant something really important to you and you posted it. That's different. That's not what I'm saying. But those people who just post it and you know, what's that, Timberlake? You're posting, man? What? Did you meant that? You kind of know. And you know when you don't mean it, too. You know when you say religious things in front of people just to say them. She does it. She says, sure, he'll be raised at the end. Jesus says, look right at me for a sec. I am the resurrection and the life. You're not talking to some other man right now. I'm Jesus Christ. I am the resurrection and the life. I don't know exactly what she does with that. It seems like there's still a little bit of doubt. But he says, do you believe it? He asks her. He doesn't yet tell her whether he's going to do anything about Lazarus. He could or couldn't. He might not. He hasn't said anything else. Do you believe it? Am I the resurrection and the life? She says, yes, I believe it. Jesus says, okay, take me to the tomb. Let's go see. And she says, let's get a stink. Now, I did a little bit of research about what a body looks after 4 days in the heat, and I'm just not going to give you any of that detail. It's real bad, okay? What the body does after 4 days in the heat is real bad. If you have a King James version today, I think your Bible even says stinketh, which is an amazing word. I couldn't find anywhere else where it said stinketh. That's pretty awesome. So when Jesus puts this to the test, he says, do you believe? She says yes. He's like, all right, let's go then. She says, nah, you missed your chance, Jesus. If you had come when I asked, he wouldn't have died. Now I don't want to open that thing. It's going to stink real bad. It's going to humiliate me and my family to open it up, and you can see what Lazarus looks like when he's been dead for 4 days. I can't get into everything that I want to get into, but let's just see this about the people around Jesus before we get into anything else. The people around Jesus did the following things. They accused him, like this lady did. They betrayed him, like Judas did. They abandoned him as soon as there was a chance they could get in trouble. They did all the things that we do. They did all the same things. And Jesus responds perfectly. He responded to her perfectly. He will respond to you perfectly. I had several Christians, imagine this, let me down this week, which happens almost every week, right? We let each other down all the time. When they let me down, I did not respond perfectly. In fact, I sat with my wife one evening and put my fist on the table and said, all anyone ever cares about is themselves. Like I've got any right to say that. Jesus has perfect right to say that. He can accuse all of them. He didn't. He could have, and he didn't. So let's not miss this. How does he treat these people who fail? How does he treat the one who accuses him? When he's under stress, so much stress before the cross, he's sweating blood, which happens very rarely. You have to be under a ton of stress for that to happen. His disciples are asleep. Peter, who's supposed to be one of the closest to him, within earshot of Jesus, denies him 3 times while he's being spit on and beaten. I'm sure I would have done the same thing, but I just wish I could say I wouldn't have done that to Jesus. That's just... They betrayed him, they mocked him, they denied him, they disappointed him, they were weak and pathetic. Jesus tells them when they're going to see Lazarus, Lazarus is asleep. His disciples say, well, that sounds good. Sleep will do the body good. That's essentially what they said back to him. And Jesus says, no, he's dead. Like, he has to repeat some stuff to them so much. But you know what? I said that sarcastically. I don't think he really did. He said, I am so glad you guys are going with me to see what I'm about to do, because your faith will be built, and then you'll know for sure I'm Jesus. I'm the Son of God. That's where his heart was. You guys are kind of a bunch of foolish people, but I'm glad you're coming with me because you're about to see something awesome. You're about to see something you don't see every day, that's for sure. So his heart was still, I got to bring these disciples up. I got to build their faith up. They need to know who I am. They need to know that I'm God, even though I've done all these things in front of them. This is who Jesus is. Jesus shows them his real character. And this is where it gets interesting, right? After she does all this and she kind of is disappointing him, maybe. He doesn't go like we might as parents. Martha, you screwed the whole thing up. I was totally going to raise Lazarus. Now I'm not going to do it because I need to teach you a lesson right now. Jesus isn't teaching right now. It doesn't matter what she did. This is about glorifying the God and Father in heaven and glorifying Jesus. The thing that's about to happen is about that. He doesn't say, you screwed it up. He doesn't, when he's on the cross, say, you know what, guys? I tried really hard. None of you guys listened. You all scattered. You all ran away. You're all weak. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm coming down. The angels are coming. Just obliterate these fools, will you? He didn't do that, right? So these external circumstances around Jesus, it didn't impact the fact that he still saved you and me and them from their sins. And that should tell you something about Jesus, right? Doesn't make your sins okay, but his mission was to save you, right? It says, I keep reading it, and I keep wanting to read it. He says, I am the resurrection and the life. Look, Martha, I'm standing right in front of you. I know it's hard to believe, Martha, that I look like a man, and I've been your friend, and I've been walking around with you, but I'm also God. I'm also God, and let's just see what happens. And he brings Lazarus out. Think about the mourning period they were in, and the mourning period that the disciples were in when Jesus died on the cross. What happens to that mourning when both of them come back? What happens to it? Does it continue? Did they continue to mourn Lazarus when she brought him back? No. Jesus fixed it. Jesus took care of it, the whole thing. He took care of it. And now he's turned your mourning into gladness. He's turned our mourning into gladness. When it says Jesus wept, which is the shortest, right? It's the one all the kids want to memorize because it's the shortest verse in the Bible. Levi was telling me about it the other day. I got Jesus wept, right? I don't think Jesus just wept because those ladies were sad. He knew he was bringing Lazarus back to life. It wasn't going to surprise him that he brings Lazarus back from the dead. There's a lot going on. And maybe you know this and maybe you don't. The reason that they cried out Hosanna on Palm Sunday was because all those people going to Passover had to go through Bethany, pretty much, if you were coming from one direction anyway. All those people were going to see a man who was dead come back to life, and they're going to say, Jesus did that. This sets in motion the end of Jesus' life. We're a few weeks away, and they're going to start fulfilling prophecy, and he's going to be on a donkey. All that stuff's going to happen. They already knew something, but now he's raised someone from the dead. The Pharisees are not just saying, let's arrest him. The Pharisees are saying, as soon as you find him, we got to get rid of him. He's a big problem for us, right? There's a ton of emotion that day. There is sadness. He doesn't want to see his friends sad, but Jesus is looking above a little bit too. There's lots going on. So what can you take from this about Jesus? And I'm going to keep asking you this, and who he is. That he still raised Lazarus, that he still went to the cross, that he spent time separated from his Father because of my sin and yours, and then conquered death by rising again, even when the closest to him scattered. Some of you might say, the reason you don't talk to Jesus is because of the hurts in your life or the sin. And actually, that's probably the biggest things that get in our way, right? My sin's too much. Your sin is rotten. Of course it is. It was just enough to keep him on the cross till he died. But if your sin was greater than him, Jesus would still be dead. And he's not. He's risen. Your sin did not stick him so deep into the grave that he couldn't come back. He conquered death, right? And you no longer need to have a polka dot shirt for Easter, right? His righteousness can be your righteousness. You cannot create it on your own, but look at that. He didn't expect them to either, and they didn't, right? Jesus conquered your sin, and he conquered death. The worst part of that cross was not the nails, was not the beatings. Jesus Christ, for the first time, as far as I can tell, was separated from his Father because he had to go somewhere with your sin and deal with it. That's the most horrific thing. That's why he was, because he had to go deal with your sin. So when you think about your sin, just remember it was just bad enough to keep him there, but it turns out not bad enough to keep him dead. All right? He is risen. There is so much hope, and he is risen. There is eternal life, and he wants to come in, and whatever your one is, he wants to deal with that with you. I hope that today you can see yourself in the people in the Bible. You are just like Martha. You are just like the woman at the well. You are just like Peter. You are just like Paul in a lot of ways. They did a whole bunch of stuff, and Jesus, after his death, I thought about this for the first time. Maybe you guys think about it every year. Think about this. They all scattered and abandoned Jesus when he was on the cross for the most part. Only a couple of the people at the foot of the cross. But when he comes back, he still goes and talks to them. Yeah. If I abandon you to death, am I the first one you're coming back to talk to? Probably not. It didn't matter. These are Jesus' people. They're his disciples. He came back and said, look, here I am. Even to Thomas, who's like, I'm not going to believe that. I'm not going to believe that. One of my favorite parts after Jesus comes back is they're all in there and the doors are locked. Thomas is finally back. And Jesus is just all of a sudden standing with him. Has to say, whoa, don't be afraid, guys. I know this is kind of freaky. I'm standing with you. And he looks right in, dead in his eyes and says, look here. Yep, look here. He didn't do that just to show him up. He did that to build this man's faith, because Jesus is going back with his Father now. And now we're the church. Now we're the body of Christ. He did everything he could to build those men up. And we're here because of that. Right? Christianity has not died out because of this, because of the hope we have in Jesus. All right, I'm going to close with this. Nothing you do today, tomorrow, for the rest of your life. No accomplishments like the ones I read off about Larry Bird. Nothing is more important than your relationship with Jesus Christ. You must know him. And so when you leave here and you forget that I said that, and maybe you remember it on Wednesday, think about what you did between Sunday and Wednesday. Was that more important than knowing Jesus Christ? And the answer is no. And this should be a passion for you. The part that we get wrong is we think as soon as we do something wrong, he's running the other way like he's surprised by it. Jesus isn't surprised by it. But he's standing there saying, I'm here when you're ready. He doesn't turn his back on you when you've done a bad thing for a bad week, right? He's just saying, I'm right here. Just talk to me about it. I'm right here. Just talk to me about it. He didn't make you robots. He made you people who have to make decisions. Make the decision to talk to Jesus Christ this week. He'll change your life. He'll give you freedom from whatever yours is, all right? So even if you look like you're 4 days dead, Jesus Christ doesn't change his mind about you. He doesn't. And that's the hope we have today. And that's the hope we have because of Easter. Because death died for Christians that day. All right? Run to Jesus and know him. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Jesus, we thank you that we can have a real relationship with you. We thank you that you left the Holy Spirit with us and that we are the body of Christ so that we can talk to you, we can talk to each other, we can hash this life out and not pretend like we're something that we're not. God, I pray that the people here would face the things in their life that are the greatest, the biggest, the hardest with you. Set them free from this. Set them free from what's holding them back. God, if they haven't admitted it to you yet, I pray that you soften their hearts. I pray that you'd intervene, God, and help them to deal with it so that they can run around like the lady from the well who's not afraid anymore. God, I pray that when we look at you and what you did for us, we would be emboldened just the same. We would run around not afraid to look silly for you. God, we thank you, we praise you for who you are, and that you did this in spite of us, in spite of all them, and in spite of us. And Jesus, I just pray that everyone here would want to know you every day for the rest of their lives until they meet you in person. And I just thank you for that opportunity in your name.